Hey, I'm going to quickly prepare you for taking on every single new monster in Sunbreak. Good luck, have fun. First up, the giant enemy crab, Daimyo Hermitaur. This thing likes to burrow underground, shoot water jets at you from afar, and throw you off by attacking from a sideways crawl, crab style. Its weakest spot is its face, which it guards with its frontal claws, and a sonic bomb can be used when it's really protecting its head. For the greatest effect, use blunt damage on this guy, the thunder or fire element, or poison damage. Also have some water resistance on your hunter to better protect you for this fight. Next, the grumpy pyro cousin of the Bishaten, the blood orange Bishaten. This likes to spin around the area and lob tons of awkwardly large fiery pine cones all over the place. Its weakest spots you should aim for are its head and its tail. It's a bit more susceptible to sever damage and somewhat weak to the water element. This thing hits with fire damage quite frequently, so I recommend pumping up your fire resistance for this one. Then we have the Aurora Somnacanth. Unlike the sleepy original version of this monster, this variant focuses on close and long-range ice blasts. Its primary weak bits are its neck and head. Use a blunt weapon on this thing and bring along something with the fire element. Since most of its attacks are ice-based, you know the drill, bring some resistance. Next up is the big beefcake Garangolm. It likes to chuck huge rocks around and reach underground to juice up its right arm. That can then inflict blast blight on areas that linger on the ground. As soon as its fist is powered up like this, that should be your #1 focus damage spot. As far as the damage types, Sever, Blunt, and Projectile all work well, but you can also slap Thunder on one of those as well. Just raw physical defense and high health will be your best protection, and also look out for that blast blight if you get caught in it. Then we have the Shogun Ceanataur, which is yet another giant crab. This thing has different types of shells it will inhabit during a fight, which slightly alter some of its attacks. If you aim for destroying its shell, it'll reveal its super squishy part, and I don't want to know what that thing is. Also, its face is quite susceptible to damage as well, and in general, use blunt damage if you want to aim for the shell, sever, or projectile if you plan on aiming for the head. You can also bring along the fire or thunder element to exploit it. Most of its attacks will come from its pincers, so raw physical defense will be best, and those can inflict bleed on you as well, so watch out for that. Next is Magma Almudron. It likes to burrow underground and pull out large magma rocks with its tail, which allows it to do giant fire-based attacks which even can modify the ground. As soon as it gets that rock out, your #1 goal should be to destroy the thing as quickly as possible. Easier said than done since it moves around pretty rapidly, so faster weapons are better for doing that. Stick to either sever or blunt damage for this one, aiming for the head or specifically the very tip of its long tail. Water or the ice element work great as well. Because of the big fire explosions all over the place, definitely head into this one with fire resistance. Then we have the aggressive Lunagaron. This thing will quickly zip around trying to get you with its front claws, and will periodically coat itself in a popsicle-y layer. During this, its claws will grow and the aggression gets ramped up even more, but if you damage the ice enough, you can pop it out of that state and topple it. Sever or blunt damage will do well here, especially when aimed at the head. You can also bring in fire or thunder weapons to do a bit more. Ice damage will be pretty prevalent during this fight, so bring along some solid resistance. Next is the shocking Astalos. Thunder-infused electricity is its primary tool, being able to charge different sections of its body. If you don't focus on neutralizing these electrified spots, it'll become fully charged and then the big nasty attacks come out. Its main weak spots are its head and neck, and any of the 3 primary damage types will do here, but the ice element will help just a bit more. With all the electricity, you'll definitely want some high thunder resist. Then you've got yourself an Espinas. This thing is the status ailment inflictor, being able to contaminate you with poison, paralysis, and fire blight in just one attack. When it's enraged, it gets more aggressive, but it also is more susceptible to damage during that time. Its 2 thick legs are its main weak spots, and sever, blunt, and projectile damage work just fine for this fight. It also takes slightly higher damage from the ice element. Your main fear for this one is getting stuck being poisoned and paralyzed, so bring some resistance if possible. Next is Gore Magala. Its attacks are large and dramatic, many of which leave lingering pools of the Frenzy virus, which will build up to reduce your healing abilities and make you even more prone to damage. This thing is pretty intimidating, especially when it turns into its purple LED mode, so aim for its head to pop it out of this frenzied state. Its face and horn-like antenna attached to it are its weak spots, and sever damage slightly edges out the other 2 types. Fire, thunder, and dragon damage work pretty well too. Also, your best defense is a good offense when it comes to dealing with that frenzy element. Then we have the scaly Seregios. This thing is covered in tons of sharp scales, which it can chuck at you and even lodge them into the ground to act as little traps. Those scales can inflict bleeding on you, which gets worse the more you attack and evade. Its weakest spots are in the head and hind legs, and sever, blunt, and projectile damage do just fine. It's also very weak to the thunder element, and also highly susceptible to the exhaust effect, which will tucker out the poor little guy. To defend against this one, just raw physical resistance is your best bet, and just watch out for that bleeding. Next is the arson arachnid Pyre Rakna-Kadaki. This likes to spew out fire blasts all over the place, and even ploop out little babies from its egg sac that can do little fire blasts of their own. Aim for this thing's head if you can reach it, or its vulnerable egg sac, which can be destroyed, but it will regenerate. That means more fire babies! Sever and blunt damage work well in this fight, along with the water or ice elements. Try to avoid being webbed and bring along some high fire resist. Then we have ourselves a Malzeno. This dragon likes to inflict blood blight on you with close and long range AoE attacks. After a certain amount of time, the bloodening will happen, which sends Malzeno into a frenzy, being able to instantly teleport around the battlefield. If you destroy the red spots on its front legs and head, you can knock it out of this. Also, those are the 2 best spots to always be attacking anyways. Sever and blunt damage work a little better for this one, and it's also weak to the dragon element. Most of its attacks deal the dragon type, so bring some resistance to that, and also know how to use the blood blight to your advantage. Next up is the leveled up version of the Gore Magala, the Shagaru Magala. This has a heftier health pool, larger breath attacks, inflicts frenzy, and frequently enters its powered up state. Its weakest spots are its head and neck area, and either sever, blunt, or projectile weapons work well for this matchup. You can also bring in a fire element or dragon type weapon to exploit its weaknesses, and it's also susceptible to poison. Raw physical defense will be your best bet against this thing, and also bring some counters to the frenzy element. Then we have the Furious Rajang. This is a more powerful version of the Thunder Ape you have come to love, but with a few new attacks. It's going to quickly slam the area with tons of thunder attacks, and watch out for its swole arm mode. Its weakest spot is the head, and sever, blunt, or projectile work just fine against this thing, and you can also bring along some of the ice element for a little extra damage. Of course, come into this one with plenty of thunder resist. Now for these next two, big spoilers for the final fights in Sunbreak. Alright, here we have the massive Gaismagorm Elder Dragon. During its first phase, you'll be knocking some crystals off of it, and the more you do so, the more damage you'll inflict during its Kirby Inhale move, so make sure to hide behind the big rocks. Most of its attacks will be ground-based swipes and large explosive AoEs. During its second phase, it gets much harder, and its AoEs get drastically larger and more frequent. When it jumps to climb up the wall, go on a turret and try to destroy the 3 glowing red spots while shooting down incoming projectiles. If you don't do this in time, be prepared to flee before you get completely nuked. Try to aim most of your attacks at its weak face, with either sever, blunt, or projectile damage. You can bring in the dragon or thunder element to exploit its weakness. Your best defense here is raw physical resist and HP, along with having enough curatives to live through the lengthy 2-phase battle. And last, after you reach the whopping master rank of 100, I need some sleep, you can challenge Scorned Magnamalo. This variant is extra infused with Hellfire, likes to bombard the entire area, and can enter a raging Hellfire state where new heavier attacks come into play. Aim your attacks for its head, front legs with the cool blades on them, or its tail section for the most damage. Sever, blunt, and projectile work just fine here, and you can throw on the water or thunder element to exploit it. Watch out for that Hellfire Blight, and make sure to keep your health above 50% or you will definitely get got. And those are all of the brand new monsters in Sunbreak, and hopefully now you'll destroy each and every single one. I'm Alex, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.